Welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving straight into the facts behind India's incredibly controversial $10 billion Great Nicobar Island development project. We are going to look at this entirely through the lens of the data, the geopolitical defense strategies, and the intense environmental pushback that's made this one of the absolute most hotly debated infrastructure initiatives anywhere in the world right now.
So let's just get right to it and ask the central question that has both defense analysts and environmentalists totally sounding the alarm. Can a massive strategic military hub genuinely coexist with a pristine, virtually untouched biosphere? It's the ultimate question of national security versus ecological preservation, and it forms the very core of the debate we're exploring today.
To unpack this, here is our roadmap. We're going to cover the $10 billion megaproject, the strategic defense imperative, the global trade hub, a fragile ecosystem threatened, the fate of indigenous tribes, and finally, what happens next.
Okay, let's start with Section 1, the $10 billion megaproject transforming India's southernmost island.
Think about the sheer scale here. This plan is built on four massive pillars, an 81,000 crore rupee infrastructure initiative that will literally alter a fifth of the island's landmass. We're talking about a massive transshipment terminal with a 16 million TEU capacity at Galathea Bay. Then, there's a dual-use military and civil airport featuring a 3-kilometer runway big enough to handle wide-body aircraft. Add to that a sprawling township covering 166 square kilometers to create two entirely new coastal cities and a 450 MVA hybrid gas and solar power plant to keep the whole thing running.
Now, obviously, this isn't happening overnight. It's a massive 30-year rollout. Phase 1 is all about the foundational infrastructure, the port, the airport, and that's targeted to wrap up its earliest goals by 2028. From there, Phase 2 shifts into port expansion and tourism hubs by 2041, eventually culminating in Phase 3, a global financial smart city by 2047. It is, by every definition, a total demographic and structural overhaul of the island.
Which brings us to Section 2, the strategic defense imperative, countering the string of pearls.
The government really hasn't minced words about why they're doing this. They've explicitly stated this is a project of strategic, defense, and national importance. In geopolitical terms, defense analysts view this island as essentially an unsinkable aircraft carrier, a forward operating base that is absolutely vital for India to maintain regional stability and project its power.
And the key here is geographical leverage. Developing Great Nicobar gives India a strategic choke point, incredibly close to the Strait of Malacca. Why does that matter? Because that specific maritime corridor handles about 35% of all global trade, including the bulk of China's energy shipments. By overlooking the vital 6-degree channel, India significantly enhances its maritime domain awareness. It essentially allows them to actively monitor vessel traffic and secure their maritime borders in the Indo-Pacific against growing foreign presence.
Now for Section 3, the global trade hub, reclaiming transshipment revenues.
$220 million. That is a staggering number. That represents the estimated annual revenue India is currently losing to foreign transshipment ports like Singapore and Colombo. Right now, nearly 75% of India's transshipped cargo is actually handled outside the country. So this new Galathea Bay terminal is explicitly designed to recapture those funds and position India as a global maritime logistics leader.
But of course, this comes at a steep price. Section 4, a fragile ecosystem threatened, the ecological cost of development. To make way for a project of this magnitude, 130 square kilometers of primary rainforest will be diverted, and that results in the estimated loss of up to 852,000 trees. Some researchers even put that number closer to 1 million. And remember, this is right in the middle of a UNESCO-designated Biosphere Reserve. The sheer scale of the deforestation we're talking about is immense, and it's irreversible.
Because of this, the environmental impact assessment has sparked absolute outrage among conservationists. Experts are pointing out severe risks to unique wildlife. Galathea Bay, where the port is going, is actually one of the most crucial nesting sites in India for the vulnerable giant leatherback turtle. The project also means severe habitat loss for the endemic Nicobar megapode bird. Plus, dredging for the port requires translocating 16,000 coral colonies, a massive feat that marine biologists argue is highly unproven at this scale. And if that wasn't enough, all this massive infrastructure is being built in Seismic Zone 5, a highly earthquake-prone region that was ravaged by the 2004 tsunami, so the disaster risks compound dramatically.
This quote from former Environment Minister Jairam Ramesh really captures the intense political and social opposition. He states, "The bulldozer moves on, unmindful of the concerns of the local communities.
Clearly, the claim is a lie. Critics and environmental lawyers are actively arguing that national security is being used as a convenient legal loophole to just completely bypass established environmental protection laws.
Which leads us to the most polarizing aspect of all this. Section 5, the fate of indigenous tribes, development versus survival.
Right at the very center of this human impact are the Shompen. They are classified as a particularly vulnerable tribal group. We're talking about semi-nomadic hunter-gatherers with an estimated population of just 229 to 300 individuals living in deep isolation in the interior forests of Great Nicobar. The Shompen, along with the Nicobarese, rely entirely on these specific forests for their survival, and crucially, they have virtually no immunity to outside infectious diseases.
To really understand the absolute shock to their system this project represents, just consider this number, 4,000%. The influx of construction workers, military personnel, and new settlers is going to spike the island's population from a mere 8,000 people today to roughly 350,000 over the next 3 decades. That will fundamentally, drastically, and permanently alter the demographic and cultural landscape of the island.
Because of this, global anthropologists and advocacy groups are sounding the ultimate alarm. An open letter signed by 39 international genocide experts explicitly warned that the project will be a death sentence for the Shompen, tantamount to the international crime of genocide. It is an incredibly stark warning regarding the sheer survival of these indigenous peoples.
So, as an observer, you are presented with two completely contrasting realities. On one side, the government's stance is that there will be no forced displacement, tribal welfare remains central to their planning, and proper legal consent was obtained. But on the flip side, tribal advocates state that at least 3 Shompen settlements will be directly displaced, no objection certificates were coerced from tribal councils, and the Forest Rights Act has been blatantly violated. Whether the indigenous communities actually gave informed consent is a hotly contested issue, and it's one that is currently being challenged in the courts.
So, with the battle lines clearly drawn, Section 6, what happens next? The road to 2028.
Despite massive pushback from civil society, the institutional momentum is pushing rapidly forward. The National Green Tribunal recently cleared the project, though critics are quick to point out that a key high-powered committee report on the environmental clearance has been kept completely secret, citing national security. Right now, there are still pending legal appeals at the Calcutta High Court and the Supreme Court. Meanwhile, the government has already approved deep-sea mining blocks nearby, and initial construction phases are looming on the horizon, officially targeted for 2028.
I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to ponder as this monumental project unfolds. Fast forward to 2030. If the transshipment port thrives and secures India's maritime dominance, but the coral reefs die and the Shompen vanish forever, will history remember this as a strategic masterstroke or a strategic ecocide? It's a defining moment for how modern nations balance security, economics, and survival. Thank you so much for joining this explainer.